So, welcome, 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 everybody. We are so happy to be here today. Look at this beautiful, beautiful background behind Alex, who's over in Bali, and I'm here in Glastonbury in the UK. So what I really love about this is that we are connecting from the heart chakras of this beautiful earth and bringing you to the breath and to our experience of the breath. We're going to have a conversation today about our work that we would love to share with you who are listening and watching. And we're going to start with a prayer. And this prayer is at the heart of my work personally, my shamanic practice. So I suggest that you take a moment to place your hands on your heart, maybe a hand on your belly, connecting with your soft animal nature, your heartbeat, and the lungs behind the heart, which get massaged every time we take a breath in and out. The heart gets a massage. And we greet and give thanks to the spirits of the 7 directions. We give thanks to the spirits of the north, to the wisdom keepers, the wise ones, the elders, the sacred avatars, all of those who hold us accountable to our highest consciousness. And we welcome and invite the transmutation of thoughts, resources, and all our abilities to turn our ideas into actions in this direction, giving thanks to the horned creatures for reminding us about our connection to our highest consciousness. And we greet and give thanks to the spirits of the east, to the element of fire, for the sunrise and the sunset every day, reminding us of the importance of always holding faith that the light will return. And at this time, it's especially important. So we give thanks to the sun, to Grandfather Sun, for reminding us about the power of our dreams, about the power of our thoughts, and how we can really hold our highest intention at this time for cleansing on the spiritual level. And as we move towards the south and greet and give thanks to the spirits of the south, to the element of water for teaching us how to move and to flow around what may be perceived as an obstacle, and to extract the medicine, the teachings that will return us to the innocence of playfulness, lightness, trust, and surrender. We give thanks to the great snake and the jaguar for teaching us how to be comfortable in our emotional worlds. And we move towards the west, where we give thanks for healing of the body. And in this work that both Alex and I do, offering with all humility the full potential to bring us into having the most happy, healthy, radiant bodies, visualizing that for a moment, visualizing yourself in full health and vitality. We give thanks to the element of earth, to the keepers of the dream time and the shadow. And we give thanks to Grandmother Moon in her full phase today, Grandfather Sun for warming our hearts, Father Sky and Mother Earth for teaching us about balance and union of polarities within and outside of ourselves. And we give thanks to our own breath, our own heartbeat back in the center, hand on the heart as we take 3 breaths together to ground and center. And in the spirit of gratitude, we welcome everything that comes our way in life, always looking for the teachings, no accidents, no blame. Ahom Itakiasin for all our relations. So, welcoming everybody back. It's
I think we can stop it. We can stop it there. I think this is it. Guys, whatever is going to come next is not going to be at that level. So you consider that you already got the most important. So, you know, you can watch the next video. Thank you so much. I loved it.
Thank you. Well, it's all about the transmission, you know, it's all about how we can really stay in our heart and bring the transmission from the heart into the world. It is for me anyway. And I
Amazing.
know from the contact I've had with you. Thank you. Yeah,
Can feel it.
thank you for being open to feeling it and receiving it.
Yeah.
So we'll introduce ourselves and take it from there. So I'm Steph, and I have a business that I co-founded called Integrative Breath. And I teach breath work, and I bring in my own background and practices. So my life walk has been, you could say, the path of the wounded healer, which I think brings many of us to this work. And now it's my great pleasure to really bring people into awareness, as I bring myself into awareness daily, of how we can really recognize and understand the magnificence and the beauty of who we are. So I use the breath and I use my shamanic practices as the anchor for that. And really, you know, that brings in the question, what is health? And both Alex and I work to bring health on all levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually into our lives. So that's a little bit about me. You can find more about me on my website because all of my stories are there. I'm not attached to my stories anymore, but they're a huge part of who I am and why I do the work I do. So you can find me on stephmagenta.com, and we'll both be dropping our website links after this talk for you. Either if you're watching on YouTube, they'll be on there. If you're listening on our podcast, they'll be on there. Alex, over to you.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Alex. I'm here in Bali. I'm French. And the name of my business is Breathing Cold Bali. And I teach breathwork, ice bathing, and a lot of other mindful, or I prefer to call them heartful practices. What's specific about me is I come from a sustainability background. I founded an app called Refill My Bottle that shows you where you can refill your water bottle around the world. Started in Ubud, but now in 68 countries. And you can see it because, you know, in the UK, you have a lot of programs like that. I think the best one in the world is actually in the UK. So
I've
I do
seen
that.
that. I didn't know that was you.
Yeah, I started that about 4 years ago. And I started a community here, about 200 mindful business owners and other initiatives always to support local communities. And the reason I'm sharing this is all my life I've been obsessed with impact. And I've been an activist and telling people how they need to wake up and do things differently. And I've been fighting and not getting much result and being extremely frustrated. That's where I discovered breathwork for myself. But what I really loved about it is whatever I learned from the breath, I could not have learned it with any master. No one could have taught me what I learned. That's what is so powerful about breath, and also ice baths to some degree. And now, as an environmentalist, all I suggest and all I do is get people to connect with themselves. And I feel through, I think about 3,000 people I worked with, I had more impact on the environment than all of my activism that I've done for many years. So that's why it's so important for me. That's where it's coming from.
You know, I mean, this is beautiful and it's perfect. And now I've just dropped into another layer of understanding why and how we've connected, Alex, because, well, two things. The first thing is that there's a saying in shamanism that says you cannot hurt nature without hurting yourself. And so I feel that when we come back to source, to ourselves, and to creating well-being, it becomes impossible for us to hurt other people and the planet. Now, of course, we'll all move through life and people may not agree with or like what we do, so you can't avoid hurt, but in consciousness you can bring that awareness in. But the part that I was really struck by was all of my life I've been involved in activism as well. I've always, ever since I've been small, I've been, you know, a cause, justice. Well, that's not right, that doesn't make sense, right from being little. And so I spent a huge amount of time, different forms of activism to you. Mine was very much about the body. It was sexual freedom activism, our right to come into our own sovereignty of how we relate through our bodies. And in a way, that's because that was my medicine. But I realized, like you, that I was spending so much time in conflict and fighting and, you know, the polarities. And once people are deeply mired in their perspective, people don't change through being told what they're doing wrong or why you're doing it right. They change through that awareness of the heart and self. So I love that you described your business as heartful.
Yeah, you know, you want to be a good father instead of reading books about parenthood. You want to be a good husband, a good lover. You know, name whatever you're trying to achieve. There's nothing you can do through the mind because you're not in control of your mind. You're conditioning the stories, things that happen in your culture, in your families. That's what's controlling your mind. The only way you can be in integrity with yourself is dropping through the body.
Yeah.
And that's why breathwork comes in, because breathwork is a shortcut. It gets you to really literally connect the mind, the body, and the soul. And that's why it's so vital, important, and everybody should learn it. No matter what kind of breath work we're talking about, it's really not about the type of breath work, is developing an intimate connection with your own breath. That's what matters.
I'm so glad that you said it's not about the kind of breath work, because again, we can get very attached to our own way of doing things. You know, this is the right way, that's the wrong way. And then we start to notice that there's little bits of sniping or gossiping or cutting down. And actually, you know, there's enough in this world of that going on out there. And just breathe, as Dan Brule says, you know, just breathe. Or as Wim Hof says, but I won't repeat it because he uses a bad word. You know, we all know what Wim Hof, well, maybe some people don't, but his tagline, you know, just breathe. And really, you know, your breath could be just having conscious awareness in the present moment of, where is my breath right now? Where is where's my anchor point? Am I grounded? Am I rooted? I'm really big on integration in my practice. I'm really big on grounding and presence, present moment awareness, because we can do all of these practices. We can go to a workshop. We can spend 6 weeks doing a course or a training. If we haven't really integrated where our own emotions fly off the handle, where our mind becomes the tyrant and starts to dictate what we're doing, if we don't understand how to come back to the breath and back to the body in the most simple way, it could be 3 breaths at your altar in the morning. It could be 3 breaths before you move out of bed, you know. Maybe that's enough to practice that awareness. Breathe through your nose, breathe through your mouth, just breathe. I will put a caveat in there that I do think that open mouth breathing, for those who are watching or listening, is not a thing that we should aspire to be doing 24/7. We want to be deepening our practice through nose breathing, Buteyko, the oxygen advantage, Patrick McEwen, all that stuff about how we really create health. And of course, this is very topical at the moment. People want to know how to be healthy, how to stay healthy. And actually, maybe we could bring this in here as well now, Alex, you know, about a bit about your background and your investment in health, and mine as well, you know, because mine's been 30 years, 3 decades of body work, but also self-employed, setting up my own juice bars, cafes and healing centers, because I knew that that was my route to healing. It came from a trip to New York many, many years ago when I discovered juicing, and I started juicing all the time. Well, I was still in recovery then from my past, I think. You know, there was still a lot of imbalances in my system. And when I discovered juices, I started to notice very quickly how healthy they made me feel, how great I felt when I was putting these nutrients in. And it's been a long, slow journey after that, you know, because I tend to replace one addiction with another. So when it wasn't substances, it became sugar. When it wasn't sugar, it became overworking. When it wasn't that, it becomes love or this or that. All of it teaching me how to come back to center and to contentment. So what about you? What's your background in your investment in health and well-being?
I love everything you said. I'm just listening. I'm not even, you know, and that's one of the things that I teach. So I lead teacher trainings, and it's the art of listening. I'm purely listening. So when I listen to you, I'm not thinking, oh, what is the next smart thing I'm going to say? But I'm
Yes.
really getting into what's coming. And you know, all that came was more curiosity than reflection on myself. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And when it comes to integration, before I answer, I lead teacher trainings, and they are 4 days a week for a purpose. The 5th day, which is, you know, on Friday, I ask people to be silent all day.
Oh.
And I really want them to have 1 day after the 4 days of learning to be silent, so they can be, you know, if you talk, you don't listen. So it's being in that space where, okay, now I'm integrating. And then 2 more days where you're digesting, and then you're able to, because I find that sometimes I went to trainings and it's just too condensed, too intense, And I realized at the end, oh my God, I need to do it again. I think I've missed most of it. So and when it comes to integration, my half of the training itself is integration. Half of the training is about, and for me, integration is a different level. There are different levels. When you are doing breath work and ice bathing and other modalities like that, you're connecting with yourself. And once you realize and you manage to reconnect with yourself, then magic starts to happen, because you are now able to reconnect with others. And I do believe in group healing. So in my trainings, I teach people how to facilitate these authentic relating and authentic connections. Because when you have that as a skill that you learn, then all of a sudden you change all your relations in your life. You operate really in an authentic space where you're really genuinely curious. You're not trying to pretend, you're not trying to show off, you're not trying to, be something or be someone. No, you're just an empty vessel receiving that human who with whatever they have to share. And that changes all the dynamic, because we are so used of trying to be smart out there. And what am I going to say? Oh, okay, if I impress her or him, then which is completely wrong. When you truly listen to someone, this is the biggest gift you can give them. And it's an art form that has been unfortunately lost so much. So so when it comes to my journey, really, for me, it was really like I haven't been conscious for 41 years of zero consciousness, zero awareness. For me, energy was a hippie word, and I couldn't grasp it. I was jealous of religious people who had spirituality, but for me, I was raised, science is the religion. My family got traumatized by the Shoah, so let's stay away from religion. That's safer. And I had an awakening right away during a breathing session. And when it happened, I changed everything. I changed my relation to my wife at the time, ex-wife now, to my kids, to my parents, to my work. And I had never felt anything as powerful as the breath.
Wow.
So for me, it came as an evidence. And I felt it again in the eyes. So those practices are absolutely fundamental. And I'm now fighting for the world, the schools, the prisons, anyone. We all need to learn how to connect with ourselves. And breath is just an amazing, easy tool to do that. Meditation is fantastic, but it's hard. It's hard work. Breath work is easy. It's do something. It's much easier to do something than to do nothing.
So true. That's an amazing point.
Breathwork is people who struggle to meditate. It's beginners. Meditation for beginners is breathwork. And it's fantastic because it gets everybody. So that's in a nutshell. I don't want to take too much of the space, but that's.
No, you take it, because like I'm listening and I've just got a million questions, because it's so beautiful to hear your journey and to hear that relationship to the breath and to awakening and to what that meant to you. And it's so simple when we've got this resource that's just here, our breath. And like you say, it's taken me to places that have been subtle, profound, humbling, everywhere. And
I can share one practice that I just did right now. It's the conscious breath. If people need to learn one breathing technique, it's this one. And it's as simple as taking an inhale and an exhale. And the second thing that you need to do is you need to do it a lot. You need to make it a habit. And the way to make it a habit is to train yourself. So if you say, okay, today I'm going to take 100 conscious breaths, and it's an exercise, it's a practice. Someone is sharing something with you. You feel into your body and inhale and exhale. How do I feel? Do I want more of that person in my life? Does my body not comfortable with that? Do I eat my food? I stop in the middle. Do I want more food? Do I have enough? Do I want another drink? Whatever micro decision you make throughout the day, just get into the practice of having a conscious breath before that. Because this is really, breath work is about space and time for yourself. And that's often we make it complicated and about chemistry and nose and mouth, but just finding space and time for the most important person in your life. For me, that's what the breath is about first and foremost.
So beautiful. Thank you for bringing in that consciousness and that practice, because we move through life so quickly. And you said something before about your training, that 5th day of silence, which I absolutely adore. And bringing Bali in, you know, when the first time I ever came to Bali, I left just before Nyepi, and I was so profoundly moved by the preparation for that day of silence across the whole island. And I was like, wow, there's a meditation that is collective on the island of stillness. And having just come back from a 10-day vision quest, I realized, because then you have nothing but to be silent and still, because we don't speak, you don't have contact with other people, you're in a little 6-foot diameter circle for an amount of time. And I was like, wow, I've spent my whole life running from the thing that has all the answers, which is stillness, silence, presence. Oh, I can feel
and you know
it.
what?
What?
You know what? The world is perfect as we know it. That's why, because people do not listen and do not find stillness and silence, the world gave it to us. What do we do all day now? We wear something that is obstructing our mouth, so we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
We are forced to silence. We are asked to stay at home. This is exactly what we need. We need to stay at home. We need to find stillness and silence. And whether we do that because it's a choice, or because, and I love that expression, forced mindfulness. When we're forced to mindfulness by society, by environment, instead of, you know, fighting it all. I mean, you can do that from a conscious perspective, that's fine, but also saying, okay, what can I receive positively about this situation? And maybe there is something I need to listen here. And that's exactly what we all need to do.
And I would like to bring in there, in response to that, Alex, that for many people, forced stillness and silence is extremely uncomfortable, because they might be in situations where there are difficulties in the household or in their relationships. Maybe there's violence, maybe there's suffering. And again, we can bring in the breath. We can bring in the breath then as a way that we can start to really connect. Like you were talking about using it as a way to find the truth of what's going on in you. You know, do I want to be in this situation? Do I want to eat that food? Do I want to respond in that way?
But you know,
all
Steph,
of these practices help us.
But if you know, you tell me there are people have problems in their households, and then there's some old big issues coming out. The situation is just an enhancement of something that was already there, and most of us, we just postpone them, or we don't want to face them. So in a way that, of course, can be painful. There can be, you know, people are dying and not denying there, but it's necessary. It was things that were not okay anyway. It's relationships that were broken anyway, and maybe it could have been dealt differently. But if you look at a macro level, those are things that needed to be dealt with, and often as humans we tend to avoid them. And as a species, we avoid them. And as a race, we avoid them. But it's just, you know, it's just what it is, you know. It just...
well, the light, the dark, and the shadow are always there. And I'm glad you brought that awareness in as well. I'd like to backtrack slightly, because I wanted to speak to you about it when it came up before. Ice baths. I've only experienced that once. And it was when I actually went to see Wim Hof speaking in London. And for me, it was a big fear, because, you know, I'm not great with cold. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go and listen to him. I was skeptical at the beginning, but actually I found it profound, because many of the people who were there were attracted to the kind of pushing, the yang, the performance, the biohacking, the what they could do with their bodies, how far they could take their bodies. But actually Wim Hof brought in this deep connection to spirit, soul, listening to the body, trusting, becoming quiet, becoming still, through both the breath and the ice. How's that been for you? Because that's a huge part of your work.
You know, I think we have a collective relation to the cold, which is often the one that you described. And I just want to point something, because this is something that everybody needs to be aware of. If you don't mind, Steph, if you said, I'm not great with the cold. The problem with that sentence is you're defining yourself.
Yes.
You know, every time you say I am, you're making a definite, this is who I am. I am not great with the cold. So you have to be really mindful of that whenever you say I am, to only use words that are supporting your growth, not limiting you. Because otherwise you're just reinforcing that story. I'm not great with the cold. So just pointing that little sign.
You're very welcome to do it. We all need these reflections.
And I do it all the same with other things, you know. It's just, being constantly aware of, always using words that support our expansion.
I'm great with the cold.
Exactly. And if you do that, that's exactly what's going to happen when you get in the cold, because what's happening is the story, you create your own reality.
I can feel it in my body, even just saying that. I can feel the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. And the key is to shift from fear to love.
Yeah.
And as soon as, and that's what I love about the cold. It's not the cold, it's what I learn in the process. Like, of course, I open the freezer and I have the same every day. I look at the freezer, the ice cold water, I break the ice and look at it, and I don't want to do it. It's not a single day that I want to do it, but I go beyond my own resistance and I love it.
Do you do it every day?
Yes.
Wow.
Right now I have a bit of a cold, so it's strong on the metabolism. So I don't do it when I'm not well. But if I'm well, yeah. So you just have to be mindful when you're a little bit weak. It's too much on the metabolism.
Yeah.
But it's home. It's home. This is where I sort all my problems. It's there's so many lessons you get in the cold. You know, you learn when you get out, you're not okay. You want to shake, you want to heat up the body, and you do nothing. And it's great. You learn to go back to homeostasis.
Yeah.
In life, we're not learning that enough.
Yeah.
We're not learning to be okay when we're not okay. We want things to go away. That's why we have addiction issues.
Yeah.
You know, when you're not happy with a situation, okay, come on, get me out of this. So let's take drugs, alcohol, sex, work. For me, they're all the same. It's just finding an outside solution. And one of the problems we have is we consider that alcohol and drug is terrible, but no one has a problem with phone addiction, you know, and there's a work addiction.
Yeah.
All these things are okay, and it's great. Oh, you're working hard. This is fantastic. You're a hard worker. But for me, it's exactly the same. It's avoidance of being with yourself.
More. Yeah.
And we're just obsessed with things that, you know, society cannot tolerate, and that's what we focus on. But what happens when the doctor calls you and says you have cancer? What happens when your best friend dies? You cannot make it go away. You don't have a choice. That's why people have so many mental issues and go take drugs to deal with situations because we're not training ourselves to be okay when we're not okay.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things you learn in the ice. The other thing you learn in the ice is the law of hormesis. What doesn't destroy you makes you stronger. When you get in the ice, you feel, oh my God, my whole system is getting signals, I'm going to die here, and you're getting okay. So again, you're learning to adapt to your environment instead of constantly adapting your environment to yourself. Because as humans, we always do that. I don't love you, next partner. I'm not liking this. Okay, I'm out of this discussion. No, you need to stay. You need to deal with what the triggers, because the trigger is good. It means there is something that you need to deal with. And you know what? I do that every day in the ice. So it's a simple, physical, practical way to train your mind to be stronger than the body. It's really that mindset thing. So yeah,
the mind, that's where it all begins, because you know, you and I share a common appreciation of Dr. Joe Dispenza and his work, which is very, very much about mind training, and it's so powerful. I love his approach. And I think, you know, sometimes when I ask myself, what is it that we're doing, and why and how, and what are all these tools? It's all the same, because, you know, my shamanic teacher, I have a huge amount of respect for him. He's a wonderful human being, very full of integrity and authenticity. And again, with shamanic practices, really, it's all about bringing us into that central moment of awareness, and those decisions that we make, and those things that we want to call in to bring us back to the heart, to bring us back to the center. So shamanism is about taking this long walk from the mind to the heart, coming back in every moment to make choices, because the heart is not led by hate or fear, it's led by love. And in that trust, I love what you've just said about triggers, because that's another aspect for me that in the past I would have run from. Something's triggered me, it's uncomfortable, I want to get as far away as possible from discomfort. I've spent my life running. I ran away from home at 15, I ran away from home for good at 17. I spent my life trying to get away from uncomfortable relationships. Now when something comes up that's uncomfortable for me, I'm able to become almost like Qui-Gon Jinn in the Star Wars scene where Darth Maul is prowling on the outside of the force field. That's how I now look at my triggers. It's like, okay, I'm going to sit here. What's this come to teach me? Because it's never about the other. It's always about my response and my reaction and my place, which doesn't mean that I have to stay in situations that are unhealthy or not aligned, but I make conscious choices about where I step next.
Fully aligned with that. It's not
Fully
reacting,
aligned.
you're responding. And yeah, you said it all.
Let's just take a moment to say a little bit more about your breathwork training and my breathwork training. And I mean, I could chat with you for hours, and I hope that we can do more of these, Alex. And, you know, I hope I get to Bali and I get to sit in your chest freezer every morning with you at some point. Double win. I have a love of France, I have a love of breath, and I have a love of Bali. So, you know, you're meeting me on all these levels.
Woo-hoo.
But yes, tell me a little more about your training, anything that you'd like to share.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a 6 weeks online training, and we do it every 3 months. I do this training that brings me so much joy. I teach what I need to learn, and I want the teachers to also be able to teach what they need to learn. So for me, it's a way to go deeper. And I would say half of the students join not because they want to make it their profession, but just they want to go really deep and have this long time. So we do 3 things. We are getting people to connect deeply with themselves. The originality of my training is I have developed my technique, which is a mix of Wim Hof, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and inner guidance from Eckhart Tolle. But I'm also exposing the students to many other teachers on many other modalities. I want them to fall in love with the breath, and I want them to find their own voice and their own style. I'm against finding one truth. It is the Soma, the Wim Hof, the doctor. No, you need to be in love with the breath and then pick and play and create your own style, and no need to brand it. So I'm a bit of a outsider on all that. So I also approach the breath from mechanical, of the voice, and opera singer, and athletes. And so, you know, as you said with Wim, it's good to meet people where they are. And often with the breath, it's a dysfunctional breath level that we can meet people, because they have asthma, sleep apnea, dysfunctional breathing issues in general. So we do that. Then I learned the art of teaching. So it's really, how do you hold space? How do you create transformation? How do you do transformational retreats? I teach the business sides of things. How do you get 100,000 followers? And how do you get, which I don't have, but so I'm not embodying being good at all the things. I get trainers that have mastered each aspect. It's really about getting the pros at what they do. And I'm just one of the guys that share some things, but it's really, I think we share that superpower, which is our vulnerability. It says, I'm good at this, I'm loving this I need to grow, and not trying to pretend to be everything. So, and then we build a tribe. I believe that we need to support one another, grow each other. We talked about it. And I think this is, so it's 14th of September, the next one, and then January 4th.
And what's your website? Where can people find you?
So it's Breathing Cold Bali on Instagram, and then breathingcold.com, the website. And you can find me on TripAdvisor, YouTube, Google, everywhere. I love reviews, and I got a lot of them, so check
amazing
me out.
Yeah,
how about
really
you?
Oh, well, same. You know, my training I have a very similar philosophy, and many people reflect back that what they love is my ability to connect people, to build community and connection, and to be vulnerable. So I love that you described that as a superpower. I'm not pretending to be perfect. I don't want to be a guru. I'm not interested. My shamanic teacher says, listen to me and then make your own mind up. Abandon some of them, but it's respecting the lineages. And in this way, it would be about respecting the breath or the form or the practices, but not having attachment to a particular way. And so we also bring in teachers who specialize in other areas, teachers who specialize in ethics, boundaries, and consent, the psychology of trauma, building your business, touch, all sorts of yummy, delicious things that basically, as you say, we all need to learn those things. Because if I learn in a breathwork training about the importance of consent and ethics, then I learn that in my life. I apply it in my relationships. I'm not separate from what I'm working with. I give thanks that my work is, I absolutely love it. I'm passionate. I wake up with excitement. I'm so full of gratitude for this work, for everything it's brought to me and for everything I see it bringing to other people. So it's a delight and a pleasure. So we offer a 7-month online training that culminates in a 10-day, it'll be for the next one, because of the number of students we have is greater, residential module, which is usually held here in Glastonbury. And we welcome people to, you know, just come and bring themselves. I mean, the majority of people who sign up are wanting to deliver breath work as a healing modality. Some don't. Some start off thinking they don't and then end up realizing that they do, and others start off thinking they do and end up realizing that they don't, and that's all perfect, you know. So our next training starts in November, but we've only got 2 spots left for that, maybe even 1, and then it will be I like to complete that one before I start the next one, and so the next one will be in July or something of 2021. And you can find my stuff on stephmagenta.com or at Integrative Breath on Instagram, and Integrative Breath on Facebook. And I'm also on Mighty Networks, because I'm really trying to move a lot of my stuff away from the platforms that censor information, because that's really important to me. You know, going back to the health that we started with at the beginning, really the ways that we create health through the breath, through staying in the heart, through eating good food, through getting good quality sleep, through drinking clean water, rest, connection, community, touch. All of these things are so simple. Vitamin C, vitamin D, all of the yummy stuff. And it's not out there enough. And that breaks my heart, actually, on some levels. And so my work is keeping my heart, all of the pieces in wholeness, and bringing them back together into my own integration. How can I accept the sadness? How can I accept the grief? How can I accept the trauma? How do I elevate the joy? How do I elevate the trust? How do I elevate the compassion and the wisdom that come through as well? So yeah, I think we're definitely both coming from the same aspect of our humanity and our openness to not be perfect, to not be that person that never faces our own issues and our own struggles, but we walk what we is that the right way? Yeah, we walk what we talk. I think both of us, you know, apply these principles to our lives. We embody what we're teaching.
Absolutely. And people love that they don't have to be superheroes, they don't have to be superior, they don't have to have it all together, and it's what they need to hear. Thank you so much, Steph, for the opportunity and your wise words. I feel full right now, so amazing.
Likewise. And I'd just like to really briefly close the directions, because in my practice, when we open the space, we need to close it, and it will only take a moment. So again, coming back to anybody who's listening or watching, you've been receiving information, now allow that to land. So taking some deep breaths and just maybe imagining all of that delicious information landing like little snowflakes into your system, little fractals of light, holding awareness of the heart and the lungs and the body, as we greet and give thanks to the spirits of the 7 directions. Thank you, spirits of the north, for your wisdom and your teachings. Thank you to the ancestors. Without you, we wouldn't have the opportunity to create change in this world. And we give thanks to the spirits of the east for reminding us to keep our inner fires strong. We give thanks to the spirits of the south for reminding us about the power and the potency of feeling, truly feeling and becoming comfortable with that. Knowing that we are enough, knowing that we're perfect exactly as we are, that there's nothing to fix, we give thanks. We give thanks to the spirits of the west for teaching us about the body. Thank you for being with us, for your love and care of the people. Thank you, Grandmother Moon, Grandfather Sun, Father Sky, Mother Earth, for teaching us about union, balance and harmony. We love you. We are so grateful. And as we place ourselves in the center, we give thanks for the opportunity to meet and talk like this. We thank the technology. We thank the resources that make the technology. And as we become mindful of what we consume, both inside and outside in this world. May we walk in beauty and continue on this path with love, devotion, compassion, humility, all of those fabulous qualities. Thank you, Great Spirit. We're so grateful. Aho.
Aho.
Aho, aho, aho.
Amazing.
So beautiful. Thank you, Alex. And we hope that we will see some of you who are watching and listening on our trainings, or reach out if you have any questions. We are really happy to greet you and to have you join us. Thank you.